Welcome to the Daily Influence, where our mission is to deliver a daily dose of positive influence that can uplift you personally or be shared within your sphere of influence. While not every episode may directly apply to your unique circumstances, we strive to provide insights and inspiration relevant to most people's daily, weekly, and monthly lives. Whether you are tuning in during the morning, noon, or night, the Daily Influence is here for you. Listen, share, and embrace the power of influence in your life.
Welcome to the Daily Influence. I'm Gregg Koleno, your host. Thank you for making us a part of your routine. In this podcast, we explore the stories of amazing individuals who spread positivity and make a difference. Join us as we uncover inspiration, challenges, and impact on their journeys. Today, we have a very special episode for you. It's our 1-year anniversary of the podcast, and I am so grateful to have the opportunity to interview Brian, Smith, and Mary Griffin. Most of you already know who they are, but for those of you who don't, they are the authors of our I Am Team series books. They also write blogs and articles, so we will have a sit-down conversation with the two of them today. Brian, Mary, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Greg.
Yes. Thank you for having us.
So this episode is really going to reflect around the past year and ask you both questions about the past year, get your thoughts, and any words of wisdom that you would like to share with our listeners.
Sounds great.
That sounds good.
So, Brian, let's start with you. Really reflecting on the past year. As we celebrate the 1-year anniversary of our Daily Influence podcast and reflect on the journey of the I Am Team series, can you share how the themes of individual and positive influence have evolved over the past year?
Yeah, I think, as we have matured as thought leaders and as we've moved our brand outward and started this podcast, started to write more and collaborate more as a team, which included Greg adding you to our podcast and expanding and moving our influence into places that we never thought it would go. What we see is exactly what we had hoped we would have, is this individual positive influence that evolved to responsible influence and is starting to help gravitate more individuals that actually believe in what our mission is, which is to inspire people to behave more positively and responsibly in whatever type of influence they have in their lives.
I love how you phrased that, because I was going to say something very similar. I think when we review the I Am Team series as a whole since it started, that's a very different question than the last year, because we started in, I want to say 2018. So it's been a while for us at the I Am Team series. But in terms of just the last year and the podcast, The Daily Influence, I would agree with you. I would say that in the last year, I have seen a huge increase in the amount of people who truly understand what it is we are trying to talk about and what we are trying to help people understand and implement, not only for themselves, but for the people that they see or even don't know that they influence every day. I have seen a huge increase in the amount of people who are understanding what it means to be a positive influence and what it means to not only be an individual, a lowercase I, but an uppercase I individual. I think that was something that was really confusing for people at the beginning, but now that we've really stuck to it, people are starting to understand, yeah, you know what, I am both myself, but I'm also a team. I'm also an uppercase I individual with others, and that has meaning. So yeah, I love that.
I love that too. And I agree with both of you. And I've really seen through the interviews that I've been having with individuals, lowercase I, and meeting with groups of individuals out in the community, how this podcast has influenced their lives in a positive way and helped them spread positivity even more. And I'll give you one example. A good friend of mine, her husband passed away a year ago, suddenly. And it, as you can imagine, very difficult thing to go through. And she shared with me a couple weeks ago that when she's having a rough day, she'll listen to our podcast to help lift her up. So I know that this podcast is having a positive influence on so many people individually, and it's doing great things. So thank you both for all of your inspiration and your support and spreading your positivity through our podcast and our books. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's amazingly inspiring, and why we do what we do is to bring something positive to people. And in those simple examples, it just drives us to keep digging and going and doing more and more with what we have to offer.
So following up on that, how have these concepts resonated with our audience and influence your vision for the series?
Wow, that's a difficult question, Greg. So, how it's resonated with our audience, for me, the best feedback I get is reading the reviews we have of our written work, both our books, which primarily come from Amazon or Online Book Club, where we've had hundreds and hundreds of reviews and people giving us feedback on how the work has inspired them individually or as teams, large I individually, to just be better and be more mindful and more intentional with their influence. And what that does for us, or for me, and I think for all of us who are influenced by our work and work in this area with us, both with the I and Team series and at IA, our consulting practice, is to just keep pushing through and tackling larger issues, more complex issues, and trying to make them not good, but palatable, and help people to work through the challenges they have in the most positive and responsible way.
I think that, as I mentioned at first, it was harder to get them to resonate with something that they didn't understand. But once we had a larger team helping us to get a broader perspective of how our work was coming across, and to have like editors and really brilliant minds working with us to help us solidify concepts, come up with new terms for concepts, kind of organizing and rearranging some of the information in the books, I think that that's really when it started to make a lot of sense to the masses. I know that we have a lot of really good ideas to share with people. And I think sometimes, and I think this is true for anyone who creates any kind of work or art, sometimes you just know so much and you get so deep, and it's so easy to just be like, well, yeah, of course I understand it. But getting someone else to understand how you're 50 feet ahead of them without taking them each step is a little hard. So I really love that over the years we have kind of taken a little bit of a step back and not only walked side by side with the people through each of the books, but we have, as Brian mentioned, tackled more complex issues. So I think, as an example to that, one of my favorite things that we tackled was unconscious versus conscious versus subconscious bias. So I think a lot of the time that people are talking about bias, they're really just talking about the word bias in general. They don't really like label it as to like where it belongs. And our book is the first book I've seen where, or even just our work, our writing, it doesn't have to be in the books. It can be our articles and blogs, or even like what we talk about. It's the first time I've seen anyone talking about like differentiating the type of bias. And I think that that is really important. And I think that that is just one example of a lot of concepts that we introduce to the world that deserve to be held more tightly and deserve to be more understood and used as more regular speech to help people understand like what it means to be a positive influence.
That's a really good point. And I think people don't realize unconscious, subconscious, conscious bias, but how many different biases there are. And in our second book, Positive Influence, I think we had a whole chapter about it, if I remember correctly, about the different types of biases. And when I was reading that for the first time, it really got me thinking and trying to like dig deep to figure out, wow, do I have these different types of biases, and not even knowing that there were so many. I'm so glad that we brought that to the forefront of people's minds so that they can learn about themselves. So I want to pivot a little bit. Today being July 3rd and tomorrow being the 4th of July, which celebrates the independence and the birth of our nation, let's look at some parallels between Independence Day and team dynamics. So, in what ways do you see parallels between the principles of independence and the collaborative spirit emphasized in the I Am Team series?
Yeah, well, we celebrate individualism, and we understand that freedom is messy. And in our work, what we try to identify is that even in that mess, if you focus on the positive and how you can be your most responsible self, even in difficult situations, making difficult decisions, not always pleasing everybody. And if you are mindful of the whole and what the mission is, which is to create environments and influence that ultimately benefit everybody in some way. And I think our country was developed that way. And yes, there are a lot of digressions from that, and there is a lot of mess that's created from that. People have made a lot of mistakes through the development of our nation, just like we make through the development of ourselves, the development of organizations. And I think what's best about us as Americans and what we're celebrating is that we know we're messy, and we actually try and do things to try to fix the mess. We don't always succeed, but we always try. And that's what our books are about looking at the positive and trying. So that to me is what reconciles our work in the I Am Team series and freedom and July 4th and all of it together.
That was really well said. I think when I think about the word freedom, the word individualism follows very closely behind it. And I might even go out on a limb to say that they're almost nearly synonymous, at least in my mind. I don't know if you could believe in individualism and not believe in freedom, or at least freedom to an extent, or freedom of self-expression, because if you believe in individualism for yourself, then you should believe in that for other people. If freedom is a value of yours, then you should work on yourself and try to be as objective as possible when it comes to working with others who might be different from you. They might have a different faith or a different gender or a different whatever it is that they have that is not exactly the same as yours. It's something that you need to accept. And honestly, probably celebrate. If you enjoy freedom for yourself, you should enjoy that other people can express themselves freely as well. And I think that that really brings us back to the symbiotic relationship between little I individualism and big I individualism. It's where we come from enjoying freedom for ourselves to enjoying freedom with each other and enjoying freedom as a team. So it's really just something that feeds itself constantly. And I see them as being very related, but Brian said that better than me. I'm just commenting on the words themselves.
Thank you, Mary.
I think you both said it beautifully.
Yes, you did.
How can teams balance individual autonomy with collective successes to achieve greater freedom and innovation in their work environments?
Yeah, well, that takes us into, another challenging topic for us, actually. When I hear that question, and it comes often from in our work, Gregg, you know this, comes to mind for me is the whole DEI movement, this diversity and equity and inclusion. And that's exactly what is needed. And I'm not talking about this from a bucket perspective. And when I say bucket, I mean race, religion, sexual preference. I'm talking about human perspective. When you want to build a collective environment out of individuals, if you allow all of the individuals to be involved, well, that's diversity. When they feel like they're involved, they will give more of themselves. That's the equity. And when that happens, they are all feeling inclusive. And that mix with transparent and clear communication will take any group of individuals who are like-minded towards a common mission to that mission in a positive, responsible way. Period. It's just that simple. And people overcomplicate this. And those of us that understand it at a much deeper level can be frustrated with that. But it really is that simple. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of trust. It takes a tremendous amount of communication. But if you do what I just said and follow that and don't get overabsorbed by the social aspects of it or the media-driven aspects of it and allow ourselves to be positive, responsible humans with each other, that's what does it.
I get tripped up by this question a little bit because I think that if you want to have greater innovation and you want to have more success, then you have to understand the relationship between individual, little I, me, and big I, individual, all of us together. I don't know of any single person literally ever who's ever done really anything by themselves. Like, everyone is doing something with someone else or because of someone else or because someone influenced them. So you have to just understand that, like, we are here to have an experience of connection, and that we are here to have an experience of teamwork and working together. And that by working together, that is how we innovate our best ideas. And that's how we become successful. There are definitely people out there who can innovate and be successful mostly on their own. But I think working with other people, that's where the success lies, being with each other. That's where the beauty of work comes from. So we should understand that together we can do anything. Individually, we can do great things, but we can do literally anything together.
We're better together.
Yesterday I was in a meeting and this person was critiquing my communication style and said that I said the word we too much and that I came across as a consultant and that I used things out of our books too much. And I said to him, if you've read our books, which, by the way, I wrote, so yeah, when I speak, I'm going to use things that come out because those are actually my words. And I am actually a consultant. But if you actually read them, the first 3 words in every book we've written, if you open it, is I am we, which means that I am the accumulation. So even when I am alone, and if I do innovate alone, that innovation was influenced by whoever helped me to this exact moment in my life. And I think people oftentimes, all of us, might take that for granted, and we should slow down and understand it. And it's why it is the first 3 words of every book we write.
A great story. Thank you for sharing that with us. Let's pivot to looking ahead. As we mark this significant milestone and look towards the future, what are your aspirations for the next phase of the I Am Team series?
That's a great question, Greg. For me, it's twofold. Looking forward to integrating our work in the I Am Team series, all of our thought work and this understanding of individualism and collectivism and positive, responsible influence into our overall advisory work. But I'm also looking forward to writing to different genres of people and ages of people. We've resonated already with our first book in teens and young adults. And I would love for Mary and I to pen a book that is specific to younger people because they have such immense challenges now. They are growing up in a world that amazingly is more complex, even though we're so far ahead in technology and communication. But that amount of progress has made our world more complex. So I'm looking forward to doing that and speaking to a broader group of people and developing more of our work so it can be applied simpler and more efficiently into the culture of individual humans and teams.
I think the part, and Greg, you touched on this earlier, I think the part that I love the most and what I look forward to the most in being part of this series is hearing stories like the one you shared about your friend, the one who had such a tragedy happen to them that you would never wish on anyone. And they get comfort from just listening to what we're teaching. And I think that there is really no feeling greater than that, knowing that you help someone.
I love that. I love both of those. And for me, I just want to spread more positivity. The world can be such a dark place, and so many people have depression and anxiety. And if we could be just that daily dose of positive influence to maybe turn someone's day around, that's what my goal is, to hope that we could help more people feel, be more positive, uplift them so that they could be the best for themselves and for all those around them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you do that well, Gregg, by the way. You are an amazing ambassador for yourself first, but for your family, for us here. You are an inspiration to us. I mean, just to see you and watch you as we've worked together and become not just partners, but friends has been really helped us to keep moving forward.
Thank you. And it's just such an honor to be part of this organization and this thought leadership and this friendship and family that we have here. It's enabled me to continue my path of growing as a human. My goal has always been to be the best human that I can be, and it hasn't been easy, as many of you may have heard on the episode on my 50th birthday on May 22nd when Renee interviewed me and I shared my journey. And being here at IA and IN Team Series has only made it that much easier to continue on that path. So I'm grateful. Brian and Mary, how do you plan to continue fostering responsible influence and servant leadership in a rapidly changing world, especially considering the values of freedom and unity celebrated during 4th of July?
Yeah, for me, I'm just going to keep doing and practicing the most positive and responsible influence that I can and keep bettering myself every day so that not only can I be my best for me, but for my family, for my team, for my friends, and for anybody who ends up in my area or sphere of influence. And that's the best that I can do, and stay focused and mindful of that.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said that better myself. I think that if you ever want to make change in anyone, then you need to be the change. You need to exhibit the characteristics that you want to see in the world, and just know that that is all you can do. All that is in your control is yourself and how you think, how you feel, how you respond to things, how you talk to people. That is what influences other people to be responsible, to be positive, to be good leaders, to be servant leaders, just to be good human beings, is by being a good human being too.
Thank you both. One final question. What message or words of encouragement would you like to share with our listeners who aspire to make a positive difference in the world?
Yeah, for me, I always answer that question the same, Gregg. Anybody who's heard me get that question, it's understand that no matter who you are, what you do, where you're at, that you matter, that you have influence. And if that influence isn't positive and responsible, you have the capability to improve your influence and to improve yourself. And you have a way to do that. And it starts with you understanding that you matter. And that is the message I think we always try to leave with people.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The message that you matter is one of the most important. I know you asked me something so similar last time we had a podcast interview together, and I feel like I'm also going to say something very similar, but for me, it's just like, it's really about having like a lot of like compassion for yourself, knowing that like perfection is not attainable. and that being perfect is not what anyone is asking you to be. We're just asking you to be mindful. We're just asking you to understand yourself, to reflect on yourself. Yeah, you might get angry. Yeah, you might snap at people. Yeah, you might do things that you're not proud of at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, like, can you be honest with yourself? Can you reflect? Can you learn? Can you try to do better tomorrow? Like, that's what makes a positive influence. That's what makes a good person, like not going out there being perfect. It's what you do with your experiences and how you learn from yourself. So don't be hard on yourself if you aren't perfect. Don't be hard on yourself if you don't get it right, or if you don't do something that you want to do. Just know that, like, you can try again, and that there are millions of people in the world that are having the exact same experience as you. So have compassion for yourself, give yourself a hug. Like, it's all going to be good.
I love that. I think being kind to yourself, giving yourself some grace, keep moving forward, right? Tomorrow's a new day.
Mm-hmm.
And try to, if something negative comes into your mind, a negative thought, a negative interaction, before you respond, see about how you can maybe turn it into a positive or think of it differently, reframe, right? Change your mindset on things.
Mm-hmm.
And keep doing random acts of kindness, spread that positivity. Mary and Brian, thank you so much for being here today. I am so grateful to the both of you. You are amazing humans. You're spreading positivity. You're giving us this voice through our Daily Influence podcast to share this and to bring others into this mix and interview them and have the conversations and learn from them. So thank you both.
Thank you, Gregg.
Yes. Thank you for having us and for hosting.
And for those of you that want to go back and listen to the episode that I interviewed Mary, she shared some really wonderful tips. It was on May 22nd of 2024. It's episode 213. Thank you for tuning to the Daily Influence. We hope that you found today's 1-year anniversary episode inspiring. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode. And please share it with anyone you feel could use that daily dose of positive influence. We appreciate your support and look forward to sharing more stories of positivity with you. Stay positive, keep making a difference, and join us next time. We hope you all have a happy 4th of July tomorrow. Thank you for being part of our community. Bye-bye.
Bye.